What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, joined again by Will Parkinson, host of the TOJ podcast, regular guest. We got to have Will on every few weeks or so. Will, how you doing? How you feeling?
I've been better. This last couple of weeks has been a strain, to say the least. But look, we're into the back half of the season now. It's no time for quitters. So yeah, we're hanging in. We're doing all right. We're doing better than Michael Carter.
I don't think either of us were overly shocked by the Jets' decision to release Michael Carter. He's a guy that I think both of us were like, is he even going to make the 53-man roster? You could just tell there was something off here with the player, the coaching staff, how he was performing on the field since his rookie year, and was objectively one of the worst third down running backs in football. So a logical move, hopefully not the last personnel switch that they make. There's been some rumblings that this could cause some issues in the locker room. I don't know if that stuff's a little overbaked at this point. I think the best thing that cures the locker room is winning and scoring touchdowns. What do you think about the overall Carter situation, and did it surprise you at all?
I guess it surprised me technically that he got cut, right? Like, I think we all kind of assumed. I mean, I've been tweeting about this and saying it on my pod. I said on your pod, I think before the Eagles game, I said like they should make that move. Bring up Izzy, see what he's got. Dalvin was starting to round into form, and this is 5 weeks ago. Dalvin looks much more like the player, even he was last year, even a reduced version of the guy who's made a Pro Bowl the last 4 years. And it's like Breece Hall comes off the field in every third down, and obviously we don't want that, right? We want to see Breece Hall, who's the Jets' probably their best and most consistent offensive player on the field, explosive in the run game and the pass game. He provides a different threat, so on and so forth. So, again, I'm not surprised they bring up Izzy, they demote Carter, he had the chop block penalty. Again, semantically, it was Becton and Gage, and the whole thing, we can do that whole song and dance. It's the Jets, they're never going to get that call. The Sooner fans, and more importantly, the Jets themselves realize you're never getting a call. They do a lot better for themselves. There's no reason to try to fool yourself. Like, you're not getting the call, so stop looking for it. But yeah, I thought, he got benched in the second half of that game, had another drop. He's not been good in pass pro. Just look, they run him on outside zone and he's not good at outside. It's like the whole thing's been a mess. So I felt like, is he coming up? Having Carter be inactive was probably what I assumed was going to happen. And I didn't expect him to get cut, but I actually think a lot of people gave the Jets heat yesterday. I actually think they did the right thing by the player there. Like, they could have held on to him. Look at Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson could have got traded to the Raiders, who beat the Jets, or he could have gotten traded to the Browns, who are 6-3, or teams I know at least were interested in him. And instead, the Jets held on to him. He's been inactive a lot of these weeks since the trade deadline, and I know he was active last week and had a half a tackle, so good for Carl. But my point is, like, now he can go elsewhere. He can go get some carries. Maybe he links up with the Browns and Elijah Moore, but more importantly, I just think the Jets did right by him. I'm not surprised at all that he's not going to be active on Sunday. I guess I am technically surprised he got cut, but kind of semantics at that point.
I think practically, I don't know how many other changes are coming here. We know they're not going to do anything at quarterback or play caller. That ship has sailed in my mind. It's going to be Wilson and Hackett the rest of the year, unless Wilson gets hurt or something like that. I would have to imagine, maybe without as much fanfare, because of the money he makes, that they'll slowly start peeling reps away from Uzomah and giving some more of those reps to the few times Conklin's off the field or to Ruckert. It's not like Ruckert's been incredible, but he does add value as a run blocker, and you want to see what you have at least. You know what you have with Uzomah, and you know it isn't good, so give him a little more of that share. And then at receiver, I am curious. I don't think, we're not going to see Lazard become like inactive like Cobb, but do they actually start taking like meaningful reps away from him and giving those opportunities? It seems like they have Malik Taylor higher right now than Brownlee, and that's fine. But if it's going to be Taylor, if it's going to be Brownlee, Gibson's already playing a nice chunk and has really taken that Cobb role. So Lazard and Uzomah would seem to be the next guys to watch. I thought the offensive line, all things considered, was pretty good against Oakland, especially considering what you're working with. Max Mitchell as a backup right tackle is fine. He played a really good game actually against the Raiders. Newman is what he is. He's a placeholder at guard. You're buying time until Connor McGovern and Wes Schweitzer are back anyway. I think you're happy with what you've gotten on the whole from Tippmann, Tomlinson, and Becton this year. It's not perfect, but generally, like, you're happy with the body of work from those three. Lazard and Uzomah are kind of like the last stand of changes they can really make. There's only so many options with who you have on the roster. And then it comes down to, can you use two backs at once? Can you use Cook a little more in a way that makes sense? And can you get a little more creative in the red zone? Unfortunately, the answer is, probably not. And a lot of Jet fans are like, well, like, could Todd Downing be more involved? And it's like, is Todd Downing like good? I think Todd Downing's like pretty terrible too. It's not like there's some like guy on the offensive staff who I have confidence in being incredible. We had this conversation.
He got fired mid-season last year.
Yeah,
after
like what
DUI.
are we talking about? Yeah, this is not like a offensive staff like loaded with innovative minds. I'd honestly feel better with Rodgers calling the plays than anything at this point. So is anything else really happen here with Uzomah and Lazard? I do think we're going to start getting much more meaningful amounts of Dalvin Cook here. And if he looks like he did against the Raiders, like I'm fine with that because there's a way to use him and Breece in a way that doesn't diminish Breece's role. But that's kind of all my expectations are at.
Yeah. First of all, they're not firing Hackett, and like I'm not sure this push for Todd Downing and Calabrese to be more involved is certainly something. No offense to those guys, but they're in those positions for a reason, especially Downing was just an offensive coordinator with a very functional organization in Tennessee, got himself out of that. I tweeted some things yesterday. It's pretty much exactly what you said. I knew and Connor mentioned, I believe on last night's episode or whatever it was, I thought, we saw it already happen, but it's going to happen on Sunday. But Conklin and Ruckert are the only guys in 2 tight end sets. I think you can run Conklin out there in the slot if you want to and use Ruckert as a blocker, if you want to go like heavy personnel, so teams have to keep it an extra linebacker, but you actually like Conklin in those matchups. Him and Zach seem to have chemistry, so maybe that's the way you approach, the Lazard issue. I just think CJ Uzomah is a guy that charismatic and likes the camera and, has had some nice clutch plays in his career and stuff like that in Cincinnati. He is what he is. He's there. And I know he's, liking all these tweets, giving some Jets content creators some heat on Twitter at the moment. It is what it is. I put more early downs for Dalvin Cook, getting Breece some more touches on third downs. Michael Carter to the bench. We obviously saw him cut as he activated. Garrett Wilson, the slot and in motion. Again, maybe you split out Conklin out wide and you use him as an X receiver. Lazard on the other side. You let Garrett Wilson operate in the slot, and then Ruckert be a guy that chips and leaks out as a safety blanket. Those are just get Garrett Wilson on the move, especially if teams are going to go man and blitz heavy against the Jets. Again, a lot of this stuff is more like schematically things you can do a little bit different to set up easy situations. Again, I know you guys touched a lot on that the other night, but, getting Zach on the move a little bit, taking 1 or 2 deep shots a quarter. I thought, again, Brownlee's definitely in the pecking order behind, Malik Taylor based on the last 2 weeks, but bring in Brownlee for 5 plays a game, 3 plays as a run blocker, 2 plays, you throw him a 50-50 ball and say, go up and draw a DPI, go up and try to make a play on a back shoulder, use him in the red zone once. I think, pony personnel at running back would be huge. I think they should go big personnel. I know you guys talked about this last night, but why not go 2 tight end, 2 running back and Garrett Wilson on the field against the Bills in tight splits, or even take Garrett Wilson off the field at times and let Allen Lazard be a quasi third tight end instead of CJ Uzomah. You can he just has no confidence right now. I don't know if he's really healthy. I'm not sure what's going on there. Usually drops and penalties are all mental. And that seems to be his biggest issue. He never was a guy that got open a lot. It was 50-50 balls, great run blocker, effort player. There's just many things you can change. But again, the philosophy of the offense isn't going to change in totality. It's the middle of the year. I thought what Rodgers said was a little interesting. I know everyone wants him to call plays and don't do all this stuff. He clearly has no interest in coaching. They asked him all the time. He said, I have no interest in coaching. I don't want to sit at a desk my whole career, after football. And he said, I don't really talk to Zach much during the game. He said, if I see something, I talk to a lot of other position groups, which it's kind of interesting for all the people that are obsessed with Rodgers, thinking that, he loves Zach so much. But it was just interesting. I think he's a calming presence there. But again, you're fixing around the margins, but the Jets do have Pro Bowl level players on this offense. It's crazy to say that at this moment. And the only thing you mentioned the offensive line. Curious what they're going to do with Dwayne Brown this week. His window. This is the 3rd week of his window. They have to activate him or he's out for the year, I believe. I think he has to go back on IR for 4 more weeks. So, which is essentially ending a season. I tweeted it out, and I don't know this. Some of the other stuff, I know what's going on. This I don't know. I don't have any insight into at the moment. But could they have used this 3 weeks to say, can you learn right guard? Can you learn right? Can you pull a Jason Peters and can we slot you in? Because Becton seems comfortable at left tackle. Tomlinson's at left guard. His streak keeps on chugging. Tippmann didn't allow pressure in his second career game as an NFL center. Newman was a lot worse on tape than I thought he was live. But at the same time, what are we expecting here, right? They have nobody. And then Mitchell had a good game, but of course now Max Mitchell is, I don't know, maybe he goes against Von Miller and he turns into a Pro Bowl tackle again. He seems to play way up to his competition because Myles Garrett, Max Crosby matchups, Max Mitchell's the future. Jihad Ward, not so sure. So that'll be that's the only other change, I guess. But yeah, it's a lot of around the margins. They just have to be better. It's all effort and technique. Like it's all lazy technique. Everyone's pressing. That's where drops come from. That's where fumbles. That's where penalties. That's all just execution. They move the ball. It's so annoying, but they can't get in the end zone until they do. I think everyone's going to continue to press.
It's nothing more maddening than